morning. Welcome. This is LoreForged, the podcast for Ashes of Creation. This is episode 47. And we are your hosts. And by the way, we're talking server meshing. A whole lot of server meshing. We're your hosts. My name's Jibs, and I'm joined by Cash.
Hey, everybody. Guess what's coming back?
The Rubber Band Man.
Demand.
Rubber Band.
I didn't think you would be able to see it on the stream because it's gray. But anyway, Frank the Mustache
Frank
is coming back.
He's back.
Did you get that from like old school, like Frank the Tank?
No, I literally was just looking for a manly name, and I decided to name him Frank. I did this years ago, but it was when I had the curly cues. Yeah. They might come back. I don't know. We'll see.
I didn't think you could do that anymore.
What? Huh?
I mean, like, from your career standpoint, I thought you had to, like, you couldn't. No.
The man works in the fire service. It's almost like a promotion. Yeah. when you get paid more.
Yeah, like that's the whole goal, is to do the Wyatt Earp. The Wyatt Earp's coming back, and I may or may not, depending on how the Wyatt Earp comes in, I may or may not do the swishes, the waxy tips.
Now Wyatt Earp didn't have like a big long twirly mustache. He just had like a big mustache.
Yes, it was glorious.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, mustache question for you. Like a Wyatt Earp or a Tom Selleck? Because a Tom Selleck had a very like prominent, large mustache, right?
Yes, but it ended like at the corners.
Yes, right at the corners.
I'm not into that. That looks way too 70s porn to me, and I'm not into it.
Irony, Kelly preferred that over the long twirly one. Because I had the twirlies, and she's like, no, you got to cut it off right here.
Oh, like, Kelly likes that? All right,
yeah,
I'll
that's what. Now, hang on. Now, things took a turn there that I was not expecting.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my week. I'm grunting hard, trying to grow a mustache faster.
Yeah, you are. Hey, I don't know if I showed this last week. I want to show this. No, I didn't, because we didn't do a show. All right, so for everyone who's here, if you're listening, which by the way, you can watch this show on Spotify, so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Cash and Sunny sent me something for my birthday that is heavy duty. You can probably kill somebody with this thing. Anyway, this is a Warborn metal shield. This sucker is huge. It is.
Oh, it looks so good.
Yeah, and it was backwards, so I wanted to fix it, and then I realized I hadn't said anything, so I wanted to bring it on the show.
Yeah, we were gonna try and have them put on there. Together we drink, forever we whine, but we couldn't fit it on there.
That's good they didn't, because I'd send it back with the middle finger on it just for you.
Why didn't we do that? Like, why didn't you suggest that like a month ago?
Because that thing would have ended up in his recyclables.
Yep. Been a paperweight.
Yeah, that'd be the next question. Honey, can we recycle like 10 pounds of metal?
No, that came out really well. We are both glad that you like that.
Yeah,
it's gonna be hard. Like with your studio design, I don't know how you're gonna like show that.
I have no idea.
You're gonna have to put something. I don't know. Maybe you put like a white thing behind it, or like a little one of those little like $2 LED white lights that sort of shines up on it.
Yeah,
actually, if you can move it over to the right just a little bit, the light will hit it perfectly.
Well, that's on our camera. He runs a different camera for the show.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's not going to help.
Oh,
okay. You can see it. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
It's a little bit. Well, anyway, folks, thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate
Wait, I got one thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
First, you didn't introduce me, and I got like a real quick thing. Yeah, hi, I'm Sunny, by the way.
Oh, Sunny's here.
I know that.
Sunny, you don't need an introduction. You'll just do it on your own.
That's true. And then apparently most people know me anyway. So today I got bit by a dog.
Oh my God. I cannot wait to hear what kind of bad decision led you to this.
Yeah. Did you get the rabies?
On purpose. I got bit by a dog on purpose. So we were doing a thing for the fire department, and it involved the police there, and the police canine officer showed up and was like, yeah, so this afternoon we're gonna do a demonstration for all of these high school kids, and we're doing a whole thing all day. I was on overtime doing this public event, and he's like, so this is a female. She's like, so who wants to get bit by the police dog? And everyone kind of just like, no one says anything. And it was it was one of those scenes where like all the military people step backwards one, and there's a dude that's just still standing there. And it's like, you. So they're looking at me and I'm like, okay, fine. I'm not a big dog person. And I'm also not a big dog person. So, this was kind of something where I spent most of the day sweating it out a little bit. And then at the time she says, okay, now here's the deal. We're going to give you the arm thing. I'm like, I'm not getting a whole suit. And she's like, oh no, you're just going to get the arm. I'm like, okay. And, important things is you have to I'm going to be yelling at you and you're not listening commands. Make sure you show the arm and stuff like that. And he's going to run up and he's going to bite the arm. And then, after a few seconds or so, I'm going to yell and you're going to have to let go of the arm and he's just going to take your arm. I'm like, what are we teaching this dog? She's like, yeah, he's going to think he tore your arm off. I'm like, got it. Okay, good. So I'm like, well, what happens if he, if I freak out and run? And she's like, well, then he's probably not going to bite your arm. I'm like, oh no. So either way, long story short, I get out there and right before I go up in the thing, she's like, now make sure you're make sure she's, that you're yelling at me and stuff and you're not listening to commands. And one of the other firefighters goes, you're going to pretend to be a pirate, right? I'm like, well, I wasn't before, but now I definitely am. And so she gets the dog out of the car. I'm on the other end of the bay. This is a very long bay. It's maybe 50 yards or something like that. And I've got this thing and she's yelling at me. She's like, show me your hands, show me your hands. And I'm like, I'm not going to show you my hands. I'm not interested in your rules and all this. And she lets go of this dog. And it is an 85-pound German Shepherd. And that thing never stopped accelerating from the time that she let it go to the time that it hit me. And I had the arm in front of me and it hit the arm and I knew that I was not going to be able to square up with this dog because it would have just absolutely bowled me over. So I let it roll with me, right? And oh my God, I feel just a little bit bad for anybody that is in real life gone through one of these things because it is no joke and there is no stop switch once that thing goes. It is gone. So in my mind, I counted to 3 and then I let go of the thing that let him take my arm. On video, it happened instantaneously. that dog basically hit me and then ripped the sleeve right off my arm and then ran away with it like he had just won a prize.
Lucky you ran away with it.
Oh yeah, well that's what he was going to do. She told me that's exactly what's going to do is that he's going to hit this arm and he will not leave until he has that arm. Or if you were a real person, you would fall to the ground at that point and your arm would still be attached to you, but you'd be very upset. But nope, he ran away with the arm and that was it. I was like, holy God.
Yes, those dogs are no joke. And we refer to them as fur missiles because that's exactly what they are. And as you know, in my side duty, we work with the canines all the time. They're actually part of our team. And I remember one particular, we work with them all the time to where we got to lay down in full kit and then the dogs will they sniff around you and they'll lay down next to you. They'll lay down on top of you just so they're used to the operators. And I had this one time we were doing a demonstration. We were doing a demonstration for our sheriff and some council people for the county. And we were all in the back of the Bearcat and we had 2 canines in the back of the Bearcat with us. And one of them, of course, it happened to be the one Malinois that was sitting right in front of me, is staring straight out the back and just shaking like crazy. And he's not looking at me. He's just looking straight out the back doors. And I kind of reared up a little bit and I slowly started to look over at the handler, and the handler said, yeah, you probably don't want to make any furtive movements at this particular moment. I said, don't worry, I'm not going to move. But that thing was in go mode.
Yeah.
When they're in go mode, it's
It's real.
Pretty freaking scary.
It was wild. JB, I highly recommend it. If you get a chance to do that.
Yeah. Where was that
man.
way out of left field? Hey, Jibs, I highly recommend you just...
I just felt like maybe JB needs a chance at this.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to find out the capabilities of a police department canine, all you got to do is just piss off a canine officer and run.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, shoot, I can do that for free.
Maybe
Not
kick the dog,
recommended.
something. There's lots of approaches you could take to this.
Oh,
Man,
well, anyway.
No chance. Nicest dog in the world, though. Nicest dog in the world.
That's good.
Playing around the kids, doing all the stuff.
Fantastic.
It's like got a ball and everything like that. She goes, don't take the ball out of the dog's mouth. That is the rule, right? So don't do that because he'll have that ball back in a hurry and it might be with a finger or two. But wow, unreal. So that was my day. Cheers.
All right. Well, hey, welcome. We have a show to talk about Ashes.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about dogs.
Dax.
Everybody likes dogs.
I always
There's
love
dogs and
seeing
Ashes.
I always love seeing the bumper sticker. They're all over Southern California, but tell your dog I said hi. I laugh every time I see that thing.
Oh, that's funny. I don't think I've ever heard of that bumper sticker before.
That is a weird one.
Tell your dog I said hi.
Between you and Nomad in chat here, I'm a little bit on the struggle bus.
No, yeah, Nomad's
Well,
trying hard to break you.
he succeeded. That came out of left field. All right, so everyone, gosh, I really am broken. Welcome again to the show. This week on the show, we are covering the latest dev discussion on camera perspective and diving into the server meshing Q&A. Gentlemen, this came to us from the official Ashes of Creation forums. Dev discussion on camera perspective. And this one I thought was kind of interesting. So for those of you who don't know what dev discussions are, essentially it's like a reverse Q&A for Intrepid, where instead of us asking them questions, they ask us one. And question was this: camera perspective. What camera perspective do you prefer in terms of both angle and distance from your character? Do different situations call for different perspectives? I'm going to Sunny Ravencourt with this.
Yeah, this is like such a personal question, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
To me, I think that this is so personal, and there is a middle ground for me where I sometimes see on people's streams or on YouTube when I'm watching a video on somebody that's playing an MMO, and to me, they are always pulled out further than I feel comfortable. Like their third person perspective is too far out. So I like it a little bit closer in. Obviously, for an MMO, it's third person, right? Like, is there any one of us that's going to be like, I like to play my MMOs in first person? Because you're a psychopath if that's the case, right?
Elder Scrolls Online, you could totally play in first person. I didn't like it, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, and Nomad says like I fish in first person, and Rogue maybe. I don't know if he's kidding or not, but like first person to me is crazy. Just wild, right? Like I can't imagine that. I feel. Do you remember when in Guild Wars 2 where we would do the jumping puzzle, and like you kind of had to almost be in first person to pull it off? It was so difficult to do it in third person that first person was really the only way you could do it. That's like the only time in an MMO I've ever switched to first person. But I like my first person or my third person just a little bit closer than I think most people do. Cash, what about you?
Definitely third person. I'm not a fan of first person, playing first person in MMOs at all. I'm not a fan of playing first person even like in shooters very much. Like even in shooters, I prefer that over the shoulder third person look. And I think what's the best example for that is probably Ghost Recon, the Ghost Recon series.
Yeah, right.
That's my favorite. But for me, I want that third person view, and I want it to be adjustable on the fly, which most MMOs have, right? You use your mouse wheel and you can zoom in and zoom out. And I definitely think that there's a time and place for different views. But yeah, I'm 100% a third person guy with that.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird with Elder Scrolls Online. Like it was such a like it was a very much a thing, but it almost felt gimmicky is not the right word, but it just felt like the feature that nobody really uses. That I mean, I had heard of community members that would use it sometimes, but it always just felt weird, you know, when you have so many things going on in an MMO and you're fighting a raid boss. Doing that in first person when it's not built for that, like it's different if we're talking Destiny 2 or something like that, where the game is built around first person. But to go for like a third person to a first person and then expected to perform on a high end level, that becomes another conversation, I think, entirely. It's difficult.
Do you think that Katie brings up a good point, though, when she talks about RPing with first person, where she wants you to be able to have that for the purpose of screenshots and other things like that?
Yeah.
Like, would you like it if you were able to zoom in your third person all the way to first person?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll see why not. That's good for screenshots.
But Katie had a really good point, and it was exactly that: screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to be able to get all the way in and not see your character. And I remember.
Right.
I don't know, maybe Katie can help us with this one, but I vaguely remember you could do that in Elder Scrolls Online, but I also remember like you could see hands and stuff. I mean, if you're gonna throw hands, you could see the hands if you were in first person, because that is Elder Scrolls. I mean, that's classic Elder Scrolls right there.
Right. It was more of like a I won't say a port, but like they made that game for people that had played all of the Elder Scrolls games before that, which all had that same sort of viewpoint. I mean, it was a game designed for controllers. It was a game designed for people that loved Skyrim. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just is super weird to me to have that kind of thing. I don't know. I think that like MMOs they're third person games. They're very stretched out games, more than I would like, but like you have some people in there, like Rogue was like, yeah, just pull it back as far as possible until you see your character is like, no, like you can't see the detail on your character. They're just a person on the screen, you know. That's too far for me. I want to see my character, you know, with some detail.
Yeah, and Jibs, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's certainly a time and place for being able to have those on the fly adjustments and different camera angles and stuff like raids, right?
Yeah. Yeah, raids are important. I mean, everyone's, well, they say different strokes for different folks. So, I mean, like, it's going to be different for everybody. But I think the biggest portion of it, kind of going back to what Katie said, it comes back to screenshots. Like, I still do that in current MMOs, except she brought up a good point, except for New World, you couldn't do that. You had to, like, put your character in front of, like, literally in front of a wall, so the camera would, like, ricochet off the wall right behind you, and then you could somewhat create a first person for a screenshot. But, like, yeah, you know, it's kind of an interesting question. Yeah, when it comes to raids, and really, even when it comes to PvP, like, you need to be able to keep you know, your head on a swivel whenever you are.
I think for screenshots, though, I would like that as they mentioned in there, the third person God mode, right? Like the floating eyeball.
Yeah.
Like it's a screenshot. Like, why
Shoal's
is it so
eye?
hard to allow a
You mean
what?
Shoal's Eye?
Yes.
Shoal's eye?
Shoal's Eye.
Yeah.
Is that an
Don't
ESO
worry.
reference?
No, it's an Ashes of Creation reference, and don't worry, we'll talk about it later.
Okay. No, that one's over me. That one missed me entirely. So, yes. Oh, he's got the hat.
Oh,
He's
you
gonna
put the
put
hat
the
on? You got to put it on.
I have to.
Vlad's in chat. You got to
Oh,
put
man.
it on.
Yeah,
You know
can
what
you
the funny
size
part
the
is?
hat to your appropriate head first?
Can you
No,
fit
you
that
know
for
what's
your head?
funny is that I put it on the smallest setting to try and fit it on the owl, but it won't work. But Vlad's in here, so
I was gonna say you
I
look
gotta
like
put the hat on.
Abraham
Vlad's-
Lincoln trying to put on a baseball hat like a stovepipe. Like
The funny part is I have a tiny head too.
Yeah,
have a
you
tiny
really
head.
do.
apparently not that tiny.
I have a small
But yes, no, I think that the God mode thing is important for screenshots, and it's just not that hard to implement in the game. I will call the mea culpa on whatever Shoal's eye is. So
We'll definitely cover that.
you
But
can
the other
educate me
thing,
later.
The other thing I was thinking about with being able to move that along, to move your camera along to whatever angle you want, is when you're indoors. If you're in a room or in a cave.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where the walls are like closing in and they're clipping your screen and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get that sort of like every time you move like a foot and the camera can pull back, it does. And so it's just like doing that thing all the time.
Exactly.
That drives me crazy.
Exactly.
Agreed. So anyway, yeah, that was a fun one. I like that one. But I think on to the meat of the show, gentlemen. The reason why everyone is here. And that was one heck of a dev update that we had last month. Actually, I guess early this month. It came on the, what was it, the 3rd? So because they moved it up because Steven was sick. And so it would have been June's dev update. I think it was on July 3rd. And that was on server meshing. Guys, this was a heavy tech update. But my goodness, was it absolutely stunning. You saw, we learned everything from IntrepidNet. We learned how they're avoiding bottlenecks and all the fun replication things that they're adding. And truthfully, you probably could give a solid hour to every portion of IntrepidNet with everything that makes up that system overall. But you want to talk about developing the future of MMOs. And numerous times they brought it up here. And Cash, I'm going to you first. They brought up numerous times when they were like told by other people like, hey, you can't do that. And they went and did it anyway. They went and created things you couldn't create that has never been seen on the market literally ever. And tools that were just for Ashes of Creation itself. So Cash, what'd you think of this, man?
This one was a heavy lift just to watch and absorb it all. And admittedly, I listened to it twice and then I took an extra long lunch today. And I took my iPad and just set it up and I just watched the whole thing. Definitely different when you're watching it because the visual aids that they use, like their presentation value was epic. It was very, very good for this one. So I can only imagine the development that went into just presenting this to people. Like Sonny was saying, I think he was saying on our last show, just like, how do you make like back-end technology fun? And I think they did a really good job at showing it. So yeah, admittedly, like I had to absorb it a few times in order to, I had to really pay attention to it in order to understand a lot of the concepts. And it blew my mind. I have no problem saying that at all. Like the things that they are doing, the things that they're talking about, which I know we're going to get into, blew my mind. So I was very, very impressed. Very happy to see where the direction of the game is headed and that they're innovating with tech. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was my takeaway as well, because just like you said, the week before I said, okay, we know that the next one is going to be about tech and servers. How big is this to be able to convince Steven Sharif that you need to have the June update before the Alpha 2 comes out be tech heavy server information? Like there's gotta be something there that we are just not expecting. It has to be something. Otherwise they'd introduce the Bard already, or they'd introduce some other thing that everyone is clamoring for. Like this has to be something. And it was. And that's exactly what we got, is we got something that was big enough that it was worthy of taking a slot like that, which is a big deal. There's only 12 of these slots, right? There's 12 updates once a month. And this one is at a crucial time. So it had to be a banger. And man, they had quite a bit up their sleeve to be able to present to us. So yeah, it was big enough to be able to fill that particular time slot, and that was impressive.
Yeah, I thought it really was, and and we're playing it here live at LoreForged Live for everyone who's watching the show live. So one of the things that they were talking about is no layering. They're designing for high player counts, open world PvP, low latency. Does this not beg the question with the new tech that they have, where server meshing is when it's in full operation? And from my understanding, it was operating in the Node War update that they had. And also it was operating in Alpha 1. But this begs the question is, I mean, because from what my understanding, right there, the server is basically made in a giant grid. This grid, and each block represents a server. Well, Cash can be on a different server, but if he's on the other side of that grid, I can still see him, and it replicates him and goes into all kinds of, awesome tech that, there's no way I could possibly recall in detail that they did. But, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Talk.
Yeah. And I love the example that they showed where you literally had they were literally showing the grids, and you could see two players on either side of this server, like blockade. Basically, it's a wall. And the way that they do it is called inter-server replication. So whereas like on a traditional server client, they would have, or on a traditional server, they would have the server and then the client. And then what IntrepidNet did was create like a replication between the servers to something called a proxy actor. So actor is like the assets that are in the game. So like a game player or, a player, an NPC or something. So what they did was one server, if say you're player A, right? And you are looking across this barrier into another server, because you're looking, that server that you're in sends the information to the next server. And then the next server creates this proxy or this replication of the thing that you're looking at, even though it's not quite there. But once you move from your server across that barrier into another server, server A just takes that information and transfers the authority to server B to take over those assets. And the trick is, this is where the effing magic comes in. They can do it without you even noticing. So you're not going to know when you cross these borders. It just automatically sees it coming, sees it coming, transfers it. And now the next server has that information. And that's their inter-server replication that they were talking about being able to do. And it blew my freaking mind. I mean, I guess with the way that technology is nowadays, things like this are possible. But the fact that it's not a known thing, and there's not some known system in the MMO space, when you have these games that are processing so much information and have to do it quickly, they made their own. Yeah. And that's what's so impressive about this IntrepidNet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like Mutersaw had a really good point, and kind of echoes what my opinion is too, which is that I'm not a big tech savvy or tech heavy person, but they showed their work in this, and they really did a good job of taking things that have got to be more complicated than what they're explaining, and they dumbed it down to me. They dumbed it down to like the tech equivalency of the 7th grader, right? I don't work in this field. I don't have any real coding experience. I understand the concepts that they're talking about, but they basically explained not only server technology, but bleeding edge creativity with making all of these things do stuff that they're not designed to do technology to a person that doesn't speak this language. And that was a lot of people. I was surprised by the reaction on Twitch as they were doing this. People watching the dev update, and people were losing their minds. They were so excited about this. They were all on board with it.
Is it kind of like when you're trying to explain like law theory to Jibs and I, and we stop you mid-sentence and say, talk to us like we're 5. And then you're like, oh, okay.
See, my problem is I thought I
daddy
was talking to you like you were 5.
Sometimes it's like, what did you just say? But yeah, I think you're right. Not only did they have something like incredibly innovative here to showcase to us, but the way that they did it was expert. Because
that's the real takeaway, right?
That's the takeaway, I think, because it's again, not only is this tech just incredibly impressive, but the way that they presented it in a way to get people excited about it. I have not seen a showcase where people have been this excited.
It was crazy. You know, and JB, one of the things that amazed me was I think that this was almost like unintentional, honestly, right? Because you can tell certain times when Steven has different people on his team that are on the monthly development update, and some of them are better on a microphone than others. Some of them you can tell these are people that live in dark rooms lit by monitors, and they're really, really good at their job, but their job is not to go out and engage with the public. Okay,
right?
They are engineers.
Right.
Engineers as people are not usually public speakers as a rule. Okay, so what I found was that unintentionally, as they were delivering this thing, it just got crazier and crazier until at the end, they delivered the ultimate line, which was that it was all about the multi-threading of Unreal Engine 5. And they're like, Unreal Engine 5 is a single-threaded thing, and this is this bottleneck, this is this problem, you can't do all this stuff. And they told us that it was impossible. And we did it anyways. And when he let go of that line, it was just like, people are throwing stuff up. And it's just like, wah!
The Irish pub scene where everyone's throwing and shouting.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the Irish pub scene where like the beers are going everywhere and it's complete chaos, right? And it was all from this dude that you can tell that he is like, this is his first time on a microphone explaining any of this to anyone. And it was amazing. It was just such a moment.
That was such a moment. And it was so funny you bring that up. The timing was perfect. I just want to say his timing on the delivery of that line was perfect.
Couldn't be better. Could not have been better.
You couldn't have planned that better. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because taking Unreal from a single thread to, what was it, 4 or 5 threads now? That is
they just multi-threaded the whole thing.
Just insane. Industry first right there. And then on top of that, like, another thing that really stood out to me is how this game is very quickly eliminating bottlenecks. When you had that dynamic server, I forget the exact verbiage, it's for IntrepidNet, but the dynamic servers that they can add based off of a particular area. So when you have a game
and they're shrinking and expanding them based on the number of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
dynamic gridding.
Dynamic gridding, thank you. You know, like when you have those hotspots, those heavy PvP hotspots, how many people here in LoreForged at the LoreForged live chat, you've been in a huge fight? I mean, shoot, all 3 of us saw them in ESO. We all saw them in Guild Wars 2. You get in these huge fights, and then ultimately your experience is affected by it, because ultimately, it's only built for a certain thing. And so it starts stuttering a little bit, starts getting a little laggy a little bit. Well, with Ashes, now they can expand. They can expand on that area with servers, thus making it that much better of a gameplay experience. It just blows my mind that such forward thinking is going into this.
Let me explain dynamic gridding again, because this is one of the 4 main things that they talked about. So just like Jibs was saying, if you have this grid over the entire map, and each of those boxes is a server, right? So the problem that they were facing is that when player activity condenses to one area, which is definitely going to happen in Ashes of Creation, it can overwhelm one of those single servers. But what dynamic gridding does is it detects when that server is overwhelmed, and then it further splits that particular server into multiple servers. And what that does is it helps to better accommodate the player density behavior that's in that certain area. So Steven was super excited to talk about it, right off the bat. And they're like, whoa, like, pump the brakes, pal. We're gonna get there. He was super excited.
What about the dynamic server thing?
And like, I got a kick out of that, because and there's another thing that I want to talk about that you actually mentioned real quick. And this is just a real quick thing. It's something that I picked up on from a leadership perspective. Sonny, you had mentioned that these folks are probably buried in their work. I think they talked about, they had worked on this for the better part of 4 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is another mind-blowing concept. But the fact that maybe they had never been on microphones before, but to me, that is true leadership. And to me, it shows the way that Stephen is running the folks in there. Because you have these folks who probably have never been on a microphone before, but now they're presenting their baby. And I think he's always done this. Intrepid has always done this, where they bring the folks on who are the experts in these things to showcase your thing. It's like, have you ever read that book or heard of that book, It's Your Ship? It's wonderful. In a nutshell, it's by I think Abishar or something like that. But he used to be an admiral on a ship, and he got onto this ship that was had terrible records. Gets on this ship, and he basically meets with every single person on that ship, from the highest ranks all the way to the lowest ranks. And he basically said, "What's your job, and what can I do to facilitate your job better?" And he got all these ideas in, and then he said, "Okay, it's your project. Run with it. Tell me what you need." And that's exactly what this looks like with the way that Stephen is running these different sections of his company. And I love the fact that he takes them and brings them in and makes them even better at what they're doing, because when you explain it to other people, it truly shows what you know about it. If you can, I think they say, what do they say? Give a man a fish, teach a man two fish, like that whole thing.
Feeds himself for a day, teach a man to fish, feeds himself for a life.
Feed him for life. Yeah, I think that's exactly
something like that.
What I'm seeing there.
Yeah,
I kind of butchered.
Yeah, I'm dying.
Particular part. But I like to fish too. But anyway, I love the leadership concepts that I see him employing. This is some serious.
I like to.
All right, I'm going to save you here. On that note, when you talk about the leadership thing, and when you talk about the people that he has brought up, that he is allowing to explain these kind of things, did you notice that one of the lines that came out of him was and I can't remember the dude's name. Like, I'm sorry, there's just so many people that are involved in these things. But the guy that was presenting, he said, "I've always wanted to implement this in a game." So Stephen, Intrepid, the whole team is pulling people with such talent that they are the kind of people that have napkin ideas on how to make the industry better, right? This guy had a napkin idea on how he could fix Cyrodiil problems, right? Like, he had a napkin idea on how to solve bottlenecks in large scale battles. And he had always wanted to try to do this. And so you give a person those kind of tools, and you give a person that kind of support and a platform in which to do it, and you let them run. And this is the kind of stuff that you get, right? This is not achievable with, like you said, Cash, without that kind of leadership that allows those people to do it. If you're micromanaging a dude like that, you're not going to get this. You're just not.
And that's the whole reason that I bring it up. And I know it came from left field, but leadership concepts are very, very important when you're trying to put an entire team together for a project on the scale of what Ashes of Creation is trying to create. So when you have these kind of leadership concepts and you have some brilliant minds, it's obvious with the amount of people that are applying for positions at Intrepid and all the applications that they're going through, they are picking the cream of the crop to develop this game. And then when you take that upper echelon of creators out there that can make these concepts come alive, and then you just send them off, do your thing. I realize that it might take 4 years for you to get this thing done, but we have some time. So show me what you got. This is the kind of stuff they come up with. Industry pushing stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And JB, so I'm going to take it to you on this one. when you have something like this that happens, there was a lot of talk about Star Citizen, because Star Citizen had they'd had some technology updates on server meshing. Okay, they'd had some progress in that particular realm, and then you unload this, and I can guarantee you that Star Citizen didn't have this going on, right? Like, this is unique as they just kept going. I think maybe Star Citizen in the first quarter of this update was like, yeah, we're doing that. And then by the end, they're like, oh no. Right? So the obvious question is, like, is this something that can bring a genre back? Or is this something where this is just so unique to Intrepid that it is going to be in their kind of wheelhouse alone, and they are still, you know, the MMO for the future? They're the only game in town, right? So which is it? Is this going to push the industry forward? Is this going to even apply to games like Star Citizen and all these other things? Is this a next step in video games? Or is this something that is unique to this particular game?
This is the next kind of step forward, that when the game, after the game comes out, then you look at ways to license this for other development companies to use. You need to use this to push the, this is a push the genre forward moment. And this is the thing that we need for the genre itself. Instead of people wearing suits sitting around a table trying to figure out how they can add more things to a cash shop just so they can get money, and not caring about the genre and moving it forward, doing this is what changes the genre, because this is what makes it better for everybody. How many problems are going to be solved from a gameplay experience standpoint with this tech alone, taking everything else out of the game? This alone, dynamic server, I mean, like, meshing, like, multi-threading with Unreal, you have in a single stream moved the genre forward 5 to 10 years from a technical standpoint. It was incredible, and that's exactly what you want. That's what we need, and the other fans need is this. This is what you need.
I would be insanely surprised if the guys on that team, what do you have? You have Hunter, Alex, Kevin, Andrew, Antonios, Adam, Ish, and Doug, right? That have now internally formed this IntrepidNet. I would be so surprised if they, as an overall company, if Intrepid doesn't take this show on the road. These guys could consult for other companies.
Yeah.
If they wanted to, with the tech that they have built for this. And I would be very surprised if that did not take place. Steven's a very smart guy. Why not take some of the biggest brains in your company and farm them out from time to time?
You know what this might be? This might be Industrial Light and Magic. Right?
Yeah. Oh, you're not
kidding. This might be the birth of Industrial Light and Magic.
Well said.
So if you don't know what I'm talking about, Industrial Light and Magic is the basically the tech behind Star Wars. Way back in the day when they were inventing all this tech, they had this same situation where they're like, geez, we just invented all this stuff. I'll bet you other movies would love this. And so Industrial Light and Magic won all of the Oscars for the next 25 years on, technology in movies, because they had all of those people working in this particular company and they just farmed them out. And like, from a pure business standpoint, why would Intrepid not want to own a piece of IntrepidNet and farm that out to the gaming industry if once their game is successful? I mean, it's math, right? Like, you're in a great spot there. So, JB, that's kind of my takeaway on a lot of this stuff is that it was a fantastic thing for so many reasons. It was both intentionally good and unintentionally good. It had moments of humor. It had just great experiences all the way around, and it was wildly well received. So I just couldn't believe how good this was, and it absolutely earned that spot.
Yeah, you know, like it really did. And truthfully, like this is the kind of thing you take as a key. You take this team, that team 4 plus Steven, to GDC as a keynote speaker. Like these are the things like you go to that game developers conference and show this stuff off because it's just unreal. Like what you just gave to the industry. And the fact that you did it quietly for all these years, grinding and knowing that one day people are going to be able to see it. And then that moment finally comes and everyone gets to see it. Cash, I was telling him, you know, like taking this to GDC as a keynote speaker moment, you know, with all the team, the 4 that
you wouldn't even have to change the PowerPoint.
No,
just take it. Just you already got it. Just go.
Yeah. You're not kidding. Like that to me was just incredible. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Sonny.
Yeah, to me, it just makes sense for them to take the show on the road. And I mean, you call it Intrepid.net. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, just the things that they have been able to create and innovate for the industry. You're right. That's a GDC thing for sure. The one thing I wanted to hit you guys was the last thing that we didn't talk about, and it's microservices. And this was another thing. This is where Shoal's Eye comes in, Sonny. So the microservices, the way that they work, those are like additional active databases that kind of umbrella everything.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So they sit kind of on, I don't know if you can theoretically think of this. They kind of sit over top all of the servers, and they keep track of like player services. So things like nodes, the guild system, the mail system, artisanship, social services. So like your chat functionality and everything. And if one of those services goes down, they're all separate. So all the other services can still be used until that server or until that microservice is fixed, and then it goes back up online. And what they have to do that, they call Shoal's Eye. And Shoal's Eye will keep track of all of those entities in the world. It tracks locations. It tracks, different names of things. It tracks all kinds of data. And if you think of it like it as an umbrella that just goes over all the other servers or all the servers, that's what that does. So it's totally separate. So it's kind of like the same thing when they were talking about dynamic gridding, how it's just a big grid and each of the boxes in that grid is a separate server. If that server goes down, everything else is still functioning. Those people might lose connectivity, but if they just move to a different area, then all the other servers are still working. And then once that server comes back online, it just threads itself right back in and it's good to go. Well, the microservices and the Shoal's Eye kind of keeps track of all that stuff. And it's the same type of concept. If one of those things goes down, then everything else is still working. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed the Shoal's Eye thing, but like I gotta be honest with you, and this is complete honesty, like that was the least interesting part of the whole thing because it made the most intuitive sense. Now, I don't know how difficult that was to implement. I'm sure that was incredibly difficult and groundbreaking.
Those are your systems.
I know.
Those are all your systems.
But man, that was like, was that not after the multi-threading part? Like, like at that point, my ears and eyes had been blown out with spectacularness, right? Like there was I had no pigment left. It was all just white. And so, I saw that and I'm like, oh, cool. So like that's just an honest reaction, okay? And there is only so much that a non-tech person can absorb, and I felt like I had absorbed 100% of my capacity on that. It is cool and I get it, and stuff like that makes a ton of sense. So when you have something like that you're able to say, like, if this goes down, what happens? If this goes down, who's going to pick up the slack? And that the whole thing from top to bottom was with that concept. When one guy drops the ball, there's 3 more people there to pick it up. I used the example of like a weightlifting spotter. I felt like every time somebody was doing a bench press, there was 5 spotters. And you'd never have in the past when we were on a server, if that weightlifter got to the top and there was too much weight, that weight was just going to come down and it was going to crash the whole thing. Here, it's just a constant revolving set of spotters. That weight never comes down. The only time that weight comes down is if the whole building collapses on them. And if that happens, well, that's a bad day. All right. But like short of that, it's not gonna break. Like they're designing it with so much redundancy and so much support and all of those things that by the time we got to the microservices thing, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. You should have had this earlier before the multi-threading part. That's just me. I don't know.
Well, through all of the replication tech and all the proxies and stuff that they were talking about, one of the biggest things that they were concerned about, obviously for everybody here, we're all concerned about this, but it's optimization, and it's being able to keep, even though that replicate those what they were talking about with those replication of those assets being very, very taxing on the system. They
Right.
refer to it as expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very taxing on the system. But what they were able to find with the splitting of those assets within Unreal is that they were able to very slowly start increasing the amount of optimization as they built this thing. And what they said, by the time that they were done, IntrepidNet and with the multi-threading of Unreal, they were able to gain significant technology and performance gains, up to 94% improvement in performance and the reduction of those replication costs on the system. That's insane. 94% improvement.
And they were doing it in multiple areas, right? Like it was never one thing where they're like, oh, and we figured out that if you put this thing before this thing, then ta-da! No, it was like this just chipping away at every bottleneck all of the way. All of these things had to work in concert. And it was truly a feat of technological engineering for them to get to this point. JB, it felt like they would show one thing as like, and then we were able to solve this problem, and then we got this improvement, and that led us to this problem, and then we were able to solve that problem, and we got an even better improvement, but that led us to this one. Did it not feel like it was like a story to you?
This was the ultimate QVC sales pitch. But wait, there's more.
There's more.
For a solid hour and like 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
But wait, there's more. Like that is what this felt like to me. Like the whole thing. Like it just kept getting better and better. Oh, they said we couldn't do it, but we did it anyway. Like, you know.
So we did it anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. That was a big old flex right there.
And
so good. So good.
Tell you what, that team
that guy's probably like his coworkers burned that into a sign and hung it on his desk. Like that's him for the rest of his life, right?
Yeah. You know what he needs on his desk is a paperweight that's just a couple of massive testicles. I'll hold this up.
Yeah.
I'll hold this up.
There you go.
A yellow flag myself because I said massive testicles.
Well, we didn't know why else. Yeah. Why else you would have flagged yourself. Thank you. Oh,
yeah, we weren't sure.
We were. Thanks for bringing us back around. Really appreciate the description.
If you're ever wondering why I'm holding this up, all you gotta do is just wait. Just wait. You'll figure it out.
Oh, so that was, one heck of a stream, and there was a couple, just to polish it off with a few more of great additions. We got some interesting things that came out of this, fellas. So even post the initial server meshing stream, they were also talking about number one, and this has been pretty interesting for the community. Alpha keys are returning. Now the keys only, not cosmetic packs. We don't have a price point yet. I've heard some people say $50. I've heard some people say $75. I've heard people say $200. However,
yeah, we have no idea, right?
Alpha key pack. Yeah, that's correct. We have no idea. Alpha keys are returning. What do you guys think? Because believe it or not, this has become a discussion topic in the community. Like, how do you guys feel about alpha keys returning? When originally some people felt like it wasn't going to return. Cash?
Good move. It's a good move. I think they've had a pretty good influx. Like, we've seen it in content creation. The community has seen it. The hype is definitely starting to build for Ashes. There's always an Ashes stream on. There's always people interested in talking about Ashes. So I think the hype is starting to build here ahead of Alpha 2. And there's a lot of folks, we have a lot of folks in our own community that haven't been able to get into Alpha 2. So to give that opportunity at the same time they're talking about expanding their testing for Alpha 1 folks, it's pretty obvious they want to give these systems a good load when Alpha 2 servers go live. They want us to try and break it, folks, and that's what Alpha 2 is for. It's for us to get in there and play and congregate and be around our friends, try the game out, and try to break everything we can so the launch is as smooth as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's ultimately up to the person that buys that key to understand what phase this game is in. That we've said that over and over, but as soon as you open up the alpha keys again, then it's that same problem, right? It's the same problem of, we're not selling you the finished game, okay? We're selling you the alpha key. And that's fine. If you want to come test this game with us, then we will provide you the opportunity to do so. And frankly, you know what? That's a good business move to provide people the opportunity to test the game. People want to get in the game and test it. Let them do it. Charge them a little bit, give them a key, let them do the thing. And it's good, like Cash said, for that problem, which is the enormous influx of people that happens before an MMO launches. The more people you can test that with, the more likely you are to actually be prepared when this game launches with just a absolute tidal wave of people that I think will want to play this game because of the fact that it is an MMO being released in a desert landscape of MMOs. So yeah, I don't see a lot of downside to this. The only downside is the same downside that we've always had with the alpha, which is Intrepid is gonna put a game out and let people test it. And they have to understand this isn't Steam early access, okay? This is alpha. Stuff is not gonna be entirely ready for prime time. And if they get it, then great. But we're going to be fighting that battle as soon as the Alpha 2 comes out. This game isn't finished. It's like, yeah, we know.
Game's not ready. Not sucksers. I'm not playing this.
You know what's funny is it's probably going to come out and there's going to be a lot of MMOs that it already beats out in its Alpha 2 state. Like
it might, or it might not.
It might. Oh, I mean, it shouldn't. It's an Alpha 2. Like let me preface, it shouldn't. We're testing, right? But wouldn't it be funny if it comes out and it's just, the amount of depth that's already there, like people can identify, like, oh, okay, the heavy hitter has entered the room. We see where this is going.
Yeah. And there will be parts. There will be parts that are exactly that. Yeah. Right? There will be sections of this game where where you can just see all of it right there, and that thing is ready to go. And then I assume you will have parts where you're like, okay, this needs some work. Like, this system doesn't work at all. Or at least it's not what I want it to be, right? Yeah. I'm sure it'll work to some extent. Otherwise, they won't let us even bother testing it. They'll save that for like different phases of testing. But there's going to be stuff. I agree with you. There's going to be stuff where people are like, whoa, like this is it. This is the next level. And if you have a little bit of creativity in your brain, you should be able to see through some of this and say, like, this is going to be a big deal when all of the game looks like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad, truthfully, on that note, like, I'm glad that they're putting more people in this space to test. I understand that some people are upset about it. Personally, I don't prescribe to the reasoning of being upset over it, because more eyes, more hands that are testing this game, it means a better end product. To your point, Sonny and Cash, like we need that. The game needs that. Intrepid needs that, because it just makes everything better, and in the long run. And so I'm really glad that it's going to be doing that. And by the way, another thing I'm glad they're getting ready to do, fellas, Bard Showcase at the end of this month. We've been waiting for that one. That's kind of cool, huh, Sonny?
I know that Summoner is more popular than Bard, but man, not to me. Like I'm I'm super excited about this. I know a lot of people that have been just stoked for the idea of the reintroduction of bards to MMOs. And one of those people is this guy. And I couldn't be more happy. I would rather see bard than rogue or summoner. Maybe combined. You know, I've seen rogue, I've seen warlocks, I've seen all of those things before many times. But man, I have not seen a good bard in an MMO in a long time. So this is going to be cool. And I have like a lot of questions, right? I have a lot of questions as to what a bard is going to be able to do and how they're going to play and what their interaction is going to be. And most of all, can I play the damn guy solo, right? Because if I can play a bard with like any sort of ability to play solo, then woo, that might change my class. You might see a bard right here.
I would be shocked
if you were the bard rogue.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if you're a bard.
I will, but you know that I'm kind of a solo player, right? Like if it's all support skills and stuff like that, if it's functionally a cleric, right? Like if it's just another cleric, then that's not going to be as enticing to me. But I don't know. I mean, they've really kept bard kind of under wraps on this whole thing. So I don't know. JB, are you going to play? Like, are you interested in a bard?
Oh, I'm definitely testing the crap out of the bard. Yeah, I really think cleric is. I did some soul searching this past week after Vlad has had me on his show, but I forgot to even bring that up early on when Vlad was here, and I so apologize, Vlad, if you're still here. Yeah, I had the honor of joining him on his show. It happened spur of the moment, and he needed a fill in. I'm like, yeah, let's go. So we went and had a great time. And that was a question he asked me, you know, like, what is that class for you? And I'm like, oh, you know, it's a mix between tank and cleric is really what I've been struggling with lately. And you know, when it comes to bard, like that's something I really want to test in alpha too, because Sonny, you and I both like have this not only deep respect for the class, but we're both musicians. So like it like calls to you, you know, like you just feel
special.
It's special. Like even in Terrace Land, when they were talking about chords and just I think they even mentioned chord progression at one point, and like while they're talking all this, I'm just like, oh yes, this is so good, you know, like this is amazing.
I am calling it live on the show, even though I mentioned it in Vladis's chat when you were on his show. I'm calling it right now. You will change your main 10 more times before Alpha 2 even comes out.
Probably. But you know what? I'm only going to ever have one tune. That I'm holding to. One tune.
Whoa.
There is zero chance.
One tune.
Zero chance of that happening.
There is not. There is 100% chance that's happening.
Nope.
I'm making
double zero.
So
folks,
fine.
This is how it happens. It's a middle of the day conversation. It's either a text message or a phone call. He's all pissy. I'm like, dude, what's going on? Dude, I'm just struggling with my class. Do you like what would you think? What would you think if I rolled a cleric instead? Dude, do your thing. Like,
and the answer is the same thing every time.
Play what's in your heart. You know, like let's get down to the nuts and bolts of this.
You really doing this?
Do you like ranged? Do you like melee? Do you want to be in up front? Do you want to be healing? And we go through like this algorithm trying to get Jibs into the right spot with his character, and he just flounders. Squirrel! And he's on to the next one.
Oh, poor JB.
Look at him. He is so reached, right?
It's so true, though. They're like, there's no way. Not anything. Okay, past performance is the biggest indicator of future activity. And like, there's just no way that you are able to not play these other classes in the game. Like, no way. Me, on the other hand, that's exactly what I will do, because that's what I always do.
I believe that.
Yeah. And I will go, like, I may switch classes, but it'll be like a year in between or something like that. Like, it is a long time. I'll go like one class forever, and I will have no alts. The only alts I ever have in games when I'm doing that is like a bank alt, but I'm pretty sure that that's not a thing in this game. And it could be, actually. We've had a lot of conversations in our community about money-making ideas, and like moving items around this game could be quite difficult. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work yet. Oh boy, that gives me like heart palpitations and I lose sleep over thoughts like that. But like the one class, that's why the bard is so interesting to me. And that's why I want to see like, what is this character? Right. What can this character do? And how is it going to interact? Because it's like a big, important decision. All of these things are a big, important decision because there's no denying that your first character in this game will be the character that you experience most of this game with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You will probably, and I believe this even with JB, who we all believe will go through multiple characters. JB will go 1 through 50 or 1 through 60 or whatever the cap is on this with one character until he gets to max level. That's my guess. Unless it feels so wrong, but after alpha testing, that's just not going to be a thing. You're going to have a character and you're going to go 1 through whatever with that character. So it is an important decision.
It is. It is. And so we're looking for a new co-host for LoreForged.
2 of them probably.
It's a yellow card. You can give me a red on that, actually. It's probably more fitting. Yeah.
You're fired.
Yeah.
You can't fire me. I quit.
You move my stapler one more time, I'm going to burn this place down.
Burn this place down.
But anyway. And oh, wait, finally, fellas, Alpha 2 date is getting announced at the end of this month. Did you know that? That is a thing. It's happening.
It's a little terrifying to me, honestly. It's a little terrifying.
That it's becoming real?
Yeah, because it's becoming real. I mean, it's going to be go time. You're going to see tons of people come in. There's going to be way more content creators, which I think is great. Like the whole goal here is to get eyes on this game. But yeah, I'm a little bit like scared. Honestly, this is a very important time for Intrepid.
I'm excited. And at the same time, there's a part of me that realizes that this golden age of speculation is about to come to an end.
Hey, Cash, can you off air? Can you confirm your address? I'm going to send you some man-sized diapers on Amazon. I think they're called Depends. Do you have a favorite color preference?
Yeah, I could read out my address, but it's going to mysteriously sound like yours. I'm going to dox my own friend live on the show.
Is that am I getting swatted right now?
Why is there a dog?
Wait, I can't wait. You're going to get bit by the dog.
The purple.
Full circle right there. That's how you podcast.
There you go. Full circle. Oh, Sonny?
This is going to be a special time. I'm not looking forward to Asmongold. I'm just going to put it out there.
All right. Nobody is except for Asmongold.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the time when I go into my Twitch stream and I'm like, you're normally ranked 1 out of like 10 on Ashes of Creation streams. You are now 7,487th out of 150,000 streamers. It's like,
that's because people don't come to LoreForged.
Well, that's going to be a good time.
Reported for not streaming Ashes.
I look forward to having all the folks here. I think it's going to be a good time. Good time indeed. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This was LoreForged, the podcast on Ashes of Creation. If you enjoyed your time, let us know how we're doing. Take a moment, leave us a review on whatever podcast app of choice you're using, or whether you're on YouTube. Your comments and all the likes and stuff that you guys do truly means a lot to us, and we certainly do appreciate it. You can always call us 516-875-1776, and of course you can email us as well, loreforgedhq@gmail.com. Sonny.
You can go to loreforged.com and find links to all of our Ashes of Creation content. This is kind of funny. Somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, I've been going through your back catalog and listening to your early episodes, and you talked about all these articles that you were writing on loreforged.com.
Oh.
And I'm like,
Shot to the heart.
Are the dude that was reading those articles. And unfortunately, we don't have LoreForged.com anymore. We grew up and we embraced the modern way to consume podcasts, and that is YouTube. And you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@LoreForged. There's all sorts of fun stuff on there. We have a lot of videos coming up. JB is, I believe, working on something to do with bards, so that should be a lot of fun. I released another Sonny for Mayor video that I love very much. Sonny is quickly becoming Homer Simpson. Unfortunately, the character just keeps getting dumber and dumber, but it's a good time. And then, of course, Twitch. We are broadcasting on Twitch pretty regularly now. I do a Twitch stream pretty consistently, and this show is, of course, always live on Twitch, and that is a very good time. We have a lot of fun. If you haven't checked out the live show on Twitch, you should come and enjoy it, because it's a great conversation in the chat. And of course, chat, thank you very much for all of your stuff tonight. You guys are awesome, as always. That's twitch.tv/LoreForgedHQ. Finally, Patreon. Patreon is where the patrons live, and they support us with just a little bit of money every month, and it allows us to do some really fun stuff. I will be working with some people on some new stuff that will be the kind of things that is directly supported by the people from Patreon. So that will be in the future. You will see some improvements come down the line, and we're very, very excited about that. So that is at patreon.com/LoreForgedHQ. You get all the shows early, and you get the State of the Owl, which is a bonus episode for only our patrons, and that happens once a month, and it's kind of behind the scenes, a little after dark type of stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So, Cash.
Adventures, you can follow us on X at LoreForgedHQ. You can follow us on our Instagram page at LoreForgedHQ. I want to give a quick shout out once again to the Intrepid Net team: Hunter, Alex, Kevin, Andrew, Antonios, Adam, Ish, and Doug. Thank you guys for creating something really special and for coming to present your stuff to us. I think most people were very, very impressed with that. On the YouTube tip, we have a new Varen Chef dropping this Friday.
Oh,
yes. So if you like meat, tune in to the Varen Chef this Friday. It'll be
dragons.
And dragons.
Dragons.
Yes, it will be on our YouTube channel. I would finally like to mention and welcome in some new Discord members. Thank you very much for joining us. To Krongus, Sinker, Rain, Shamukin, Joanna, Mio, Frog, Vane, King Pico, Pelix. It's either Pelix or Pelu, one of the two, but welcome in anyway. Burger Lips, Rocket Cat, Call Person, Ruben, and My Soul. Welcome to the Forge fam.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. We love you. Have a great week in gaming, and we will see you right here next week on LoreForged. Take care, everybody.
Peace, love, and honeybees.
Safe travels, adventures.